The sun was setting over the kingdom of Illyria. The sky turned orange and red as night began to fall. Captain Doran stood tall at the palace gate. He was the head of the royal guards, the strongest fighters in the land. For 10 years, he had kept the king safe. No enemy had ever gotten past him. "Another quiet day," said Thomas, a young guard with red hair. He looked bored as he leaned on his spear. Captain Doran frowned. "Never wish for trouble, boy. Quiet days are good days." The palace was huge and made of white stone. It sat on top of a hill, looking down at the city below. 20 guards stood at their posts around it. They wore blue uniforms with the king's lion symbol on their chests. Each had a sword and shield. "Captain, look," called a guard from the wall. He pointed to the forest path. A small figure walked toward the palace. As it got closer, they could see it was a woman. She wore a plain brown cloak with the hood up. She moved slowly, like she was tired from a long journey. "Halt!" shouted Doran when she reached the gate. "State your name and business." The woman stopped. Her face stayed hidden in her hood. "I need to see the king," she said in a soft voice. Doran laughed. "The king doesn't see just anyone. Go home." "It's important," the woman said. "I have news about the dark magic in the north." The guards looked at each other. There had been strange stories lately. People going missing. Animals acting weird. Lights in the sky at night. "The king has real problems to deal with," said Doran. "Not fairy tales." The woman finally looked up. Her eyes were strange, deep purple, almost glowing in the shadow of her hood. "This is no fairy tale," she said. Her voice changed, growing stronger. "The darkness is coming for all of us. For your king, too." "That's enough." Doran waved his hand. "Thomas, escort her away from the palace." Thomas stepped forward, but the woman didn't move. "You make a mistake, Captain," she said. "One you will soon regret." Doran's face turned red with anger. "Is that a threat?" "Guards." 4 men surrounded the woman. She sighed like she was disappointed. "I tried to do this the easy way," she said. What happened next shocked everyone. The woman raised her hands, and a purple light glowed around them. The air seemed to bend and twist. The 4 guards suddenly couldn't move. They were frozen in place like statues. "What magic is this?" Doran pulled out his sword. "Seize her." More guards rushed forward. The woman moved her hands in a circle. A wave of purple energy knocked them all back. They fell to the ground, unable to get up. Doran had never seen such power. His hand shook, but he held his sword tight. "Who are you?" he asked. The woman pulled back her hood. Her hair was white as snow, even though she looked young. The purple in her eyes grew brighter. "My name is Lyra," she said, "and I'm trying to save your kingdom, you fool." With a flick of her wrist, Doran's sword flew out of his hand. It stuck in the ground 10 feet away. "Now," said Lyra, walking past the frozen guards toward the palace gates, "I will speak to your king, with or without your help." Captain Doran, the man who had never failed in his duty, stood helpless as the strange woman with glowing eyes walked right past him. For the first time in his life, the royal guards had been completely outclassed. Inside the palace, King Aldrich sat on his golden throne. He was an old man with a long gray beard. A heavy crown sat on his head. 6 elite guards stood around him. These were his best men, trained since childhood to protect him. "Your Majesty," said a guard, rushing into the throne room. "There's trouble at the gate." Before the king could answer, the huge wooden doors burst open. A strong wind blew through the room, making the torches flicker. Lyra walked in, her white hair flowing behind her. The purple light still glowed around her hands. "Stop her," shouted the king, standing up. The elite guards drew their swords and moved toward Lyra. They were the best fighters in the kingdom. No normal person could beat even one of them. Lyra didn't look worried. She raised one hand, and a wall of purple energy appeared in front of her. The first guard hit it, and bounced back like he had hit a stone wall. 2 more guards tried to go around the energy wall. Lyra moved her other hand in a quick circle. The floor under their feet turned slippery like ice. Both men fell hard, their swords sliding away. "Is this the best you have?" Lyra asked. She didn't even sound tired. The 3 remaining guards threw small knives at her. Lyra waved her hand, and the knives stopped in midair. They hung there for a moment, then fell to the floor with a clatter. King Aldrich's face turned white with fear. "What do you want? Witch?" Lyra walked closer to the throne. The guards on the floor tried to get up, but they couldn't move. It was like some invisible force held them down. "I am not your enemy," said Lyra. "I came to warn you, but your men gave me no choice." Outside the palace, Captain Doran had finally broken free from Lyra's spell. He ran into the throne room with 10 more guards. They surrounded Lyra, making a tight circle with their swords pointed at her. "We have her now, Your Majesty," said Doran, his voice shaking a little. Even with so many men, he wasn't sure they could stop her. Lyra looked at all the guards around her. For the first time, she looked tired. "So much wasted time," she said. "While we fight each other, the real enemy grows stronger." "What enemy?" asked the king. "Speak clearly or face the dungeon." Lyra closed her eyes. The purple light around her hands grew brighter, then shot up toward the ceiling. It formed a picture in the air above them. Everyone looked up in wonder. The magical picture showed the northern mountains. Dark clouds swirled around the highest peak. Strange creatures moved in the shadows. At the center of it all was a tall figure in black armor. "This is Lord Moros," said Lyra. "Once a man, now something else. For years he has studied dark magic in secret. Now his power grows too great to hide." The image changed, showing villages burning and people running in fear. "This is what happened last week in the northern towns," she said. "Your people are dying while you sit safe in your palace." King Aldrich sank back onto his throne. "Why should I believe you? You attacked my guards." "I defended myself," Lyra corrected, "and I can prove what I say is true." She reached into her cloak and pulled out a small metal object. It was a royal seal, the kind only given to the king's messengers. "This belonged to your man, Terran. He was sent north to check the rumors." Her voice grew sad. "He died trying to return with news of Moros. I found him on the road." Captain Doran recognized the seal. "She speaks the truth, my king. Terran left 3 weeks ago. He should have returned." The king looked at the seal, then at the guards still frozen by Lyra's magic. He realized that if she wanted to harm him, she could have done it already. "Lower your weapons," he ordered. "But your majesty." Doran started to argue. "Now," the king commanded. As the guards lowered their swords, Lyra released her magic. The purple light faded. The fallen guards could move again. They got up slowly, watching her with fear and respect. "Tell me everything," said King Aldrich to Lyra. "And may the gods help us all." The king sat with Lyra in the small war room. Maps covered the walls. Captain Doran and his top guards were there too. They still watched Lyra carefully, but no longer had their weapons drawn. "Lord Moros was once your friend," Lyra said to the king. "He was a royal magic user, yes." King Aldrich nodded slowly. 10 years ago, Moros was my chief magic advisor, but he wanted to study dark magic, forbidden spells that hurt people. I said no. So he left. Lyra continued. He went north to study alone. "How do you know all this?" asked Captain Doran. He still did not trust her. Lyra took a deep breath. "Because I was his student." The guards reached for their swords again. The king raised his hand to stop them. "Let her speak," he said. "For 5 years I learned from him," said Lyra. "He was a great teacher, but his magic grew darker. He began to change." She looked down at her hands. "The purple magic you saw, it started as healing magic. Moros twisted it into something else. When I saw what he was becoming, I ran away." Captain Doran frowned. If you were his student, how do we know you're not working for him now? It was a fair question. Lyra stood up and pulled back her sleeve. A large burn mark covered her arm. It was in the shape of a handprint. This is what happens when you try to leave Lord Moros, she said. He does not like to lose what he thinks belongs to him. The king leaned forward to look at the burn. No normal fire makes a mark like that. No, agreed Lyra. It's soul fire. It burns from the inside. I will carry this mark until I die. For the first time, Captain Doran felt sorry for her. Perhaps she was telling the truth. What does Moros want? Asked the king. Power. Revenge. He believes you wronged him by not letting him study dark magic. Now he wants to show everyone that he was right, and you were wrong. Lyra pointed to the map. He has an army now. Not human soldiers, but things he created with dark magic. How big is this army? Asked Doran. 500, maybe more. They grow stronger each day. Lyra's eyes glowed purple again as she remembered. They look like men, but they are not. They feel no pain, no fear. The king stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the sky was growing dark with storm clouds. But these were normal clouds, not the black swirls they had seen in Lyra's magic picture. Why come to warn us? He asked. Why not run far away? Lyra looked him in the eyes. Because no place will be safe if Moros wins, and because I have seen what he can do. Someone must stop him. Can he be stopped? Asked Doran. You are strong with magic, but it sounds like he is stronger. Alone, I cannot beat him, admitted Lyra. But I know his weakness. Everyone in the room leaned closer to hear. Moros draws his power from an ancient stone. He wears it around his neck. If we can take it from him, his magic will weaken. So we send an army north, said Doran, already thinking like a soldier. Lyra shook her head. An army would never get close to him. We need a small group, people who can move quickly and quietly. Like who? Asked the king. I will go, said Lyra. I know his castle. I know his habits. You're not going alone into my kingdom, said Doran firmly. I don't trust you that much. I don't ask you to trust me, Captain, said Lyra. I ask you to come with me. The room went quiet. Doran looked surprised. The other guards looked at each other. Why me? Asked Doran finally. Because you are the best fighter here. Because you care about your people. Lyra stared at him. And because you have something most soldiers lack. You can admit when you're wrong. Doran remembered how she had walked right past him at the gate, how easily she had beaten his best men. His pride was still hurt, but if what she said was true, his pride didn't matter. The kingdom was in danger. The king looked at his trusted captain, Doran. Captain Doran stood straight and tall. I will go, Your Majesty, but I choose who comes with us. Lyra nodded. Of course. Then it's decided, said the king. Captain, pick your best 5 men. You leave at dawn. As they left the war room, Doran walked beside Lyra. I'm watching you, he said quietly. One wrong move, and magic or no magic, I will end you. Lyra gave him a small smile. I would expect nothing less, Captain. The next morning, Captain Doran waited at the palace gate with his chosen men. He had picked his 5 best guards. Thomas, the young one with quick reflexes. Bram, the strongest. Finn, the best with a bow. Jared, who could track anything. And Leon, who knew healing. They wore light armor, not the heavy metal suits used for battle. This mission needed speed more than protection. Each man carried a sword, a knife, and a small pack with food and water. Are you sure about this, Captain? Asked Bram. Traveling with a witch. I'm not sure about anything, said Doran honestly. But the king gave an order, and we follow orders. Lyra appeared from the palace door. She still wore her brown cloak, but now had a small bag over her shoulder. The king walked beside her. My best maps of the north, said the king, handing a tube to Doran. "The mountain passes have changed since I was young. Trust Lyra's guidance when you get close to Morrow's castle." Doran bowed. "Yes, Your Majesty." The king looked at all the men. "This mission is secret. If Morrow's learns you are coming, you will fail before you begin. Travel fast. Stay off the main roads." "What if we don't return?" asked Thomas. The young guard seemed nervous. The king's face turned grim. "Then I will send the army north, even knowing they will likely die. We cannot let Morrow's attack first." Lyra stepped forward. "We will return, Your Majesty, with the stone." The king nodded and stepped back. Doran looked at his men, then at Lyra. "We ride north," he said. "Stay close. Follow my lead." 7 horses waited outside the palace gate. They rode hard through the city and into the countryside beyond. People stopped to watch them pass, wondering why the captain of the royal guard rode with a strange woman in a brown cloak. By midday, they had left the farms behind. The land grew wilder, with thick forests and rolling hills. Doran led them off the main road onto a narrow path that few knew about. "This is a hunting trail," he explained to Lyra, who rode beside him. "It will take us north without being seen." Lyra nodded. "Wise choice, Captain." They rode in silence for hours. The men watched Lyra carefully. They had all heard stories of what she did at the palace, how she had frozen guards with a wave of her hand, how she had walked past their captain like he was nothing. "Can all magic users do what you did?" asked Thomas finally. The young guard could not hold his questions any longer. "No," said Lyra. "Most can light fires, heal small wounds, make plants grow faster. What I can do is rare." "And what Morrow's can do is even more rare?" asked Doran. Lyra's face darkened. "Yes, he has power that should not exist in this world." "Then how do we beat him?" asked Bram. "Even with your magic." "The stone is the key," said Lyra. "Without it, he is still dangerous, but not unstoppable." As the sun began to set, they made camp in a small clearing. No fire, it might be seen. They ate cold bread and dried meat from their packs. Doran set up guards, 2 men awake at all times. He took the first watch with Finn. "Do you trust her?" Finn asked quietly, nodding toward Lyra, who sat alone at the edge of camp. "I trust that she hates Morrow's," said Doran. "Beyond that, I don't know." The night grew cold. Doran wrapped his cloak tighter around himself. Suddenly, he noticed a faint purple glow. Lyra had her hands cupped together, and a small ball of purple light floated above them. It gave off gentle warmth. She looked up and saw him watching. "Would you like some warmth, Captain? It won't be seen from a distance." Doran hesitated, then walked over and sat near her. The warmth from the purple light felt good in the cold night. "Why did you really ask for me to come with you?" he asked. "There are other fighters in the kingdom." Lyra stared at the purple light. "Because you saw what I could do, yet you still stood your ground. You were afraid. I could see it in your eyes. But you did not run." "A captain cannot run," said Doran simply. "Many would, facing what you faced." Lyra looked at him directly. "Courage is rare, Captain. We will need it before this journey ends." For the first time, Doran felt he might be seeing the real Lyra, not the powerful witch who had humbled his guards, but a person carrying a heavy burden. "What will you do if we succeed?" he asked. "After Morrow's is defeated." Lyra looked up at the stars. "I don't think about after. I haven't for a long time." In the shadows beyond the camp, something moved. Doran's hand went to his sword. "Animal or man?" he whispered. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Neither," she said, standing slowly. "Wake your men, Captain. We are not alone." "Wake up!" Doran hissed to his men. Weapons ready. The guards jumped to their feet, swords drawn. They formed a circle, backs to each other. Lyra stood in the middle, her hands glowing with purple light. The forest around them was dark. The moon hid behind clouds. They could hear things moving in the shadows, soft steps on leaves, the crack of twigs. Not one creature, but many. "What are they?" whispered Thomas, his young face pale with fear. "Shadow walkers," said Lyra. "Moros' scouts. They are not alive, but not dead either." "How does he know we're coming?" asked Doran. "The king said this mission was secret." "Moros has eyes everywhere," said Lyra, "and he has been waiting for me to return." The first shadow walker stepped into view. It looked like a man, but wrong somehow. Its skin was gray like ash. Its eyes were black holes with no light in them. It wore rags that had once been clothes. In its hand was a blade made of dark metal. More stepped out from between the trees. 5, then 10, then 20. They moved stiffly, like puppets on strings. "Can they be killed?" asked Bram, gripping his sword tighter. "Yes," said Lyra. "Cut off their heads or stab their hearts. But be careful. Their touch brings cold that can freeze your blood." The shadow walkers moved closer. They made no sound. Their black eyes stared without blinking. "Stand firm," commanded Doran. Though he was scared, his voice was strong. "Protect each other's backs." The first shadow walker lunged at Finn. The guard swung his sword and cut deep into its neck. Black liquid sprayed out, but the creature kept coming. Finn had to step back and swing again to cut its head off fully. The body dropped to the ground and turned to dust. More attacked from all sides. The guards fought hard. Thomas was quick, dodging the shadow walker's blades and striking back. Bram used his strength to cut through two at once. Jared and Leon worked together, one distracting while the other attacked. Doran fought 3 shadow walkers at once. He was the best swordsman in the kingdom, but these creatures did not fight like normal men. They did not care about pain or fear. They just kept coming. One got past his sword and grabbed his arm. Doran felt terrible cold spread from the creature's hand. His arm went numb. He could not hold his sword. "Captain," cried Thomas, trying to reach him, but more shadow walkers blocked his way. Lyra saw Doran in trouble. She raised both hands and shot a beam of purple light at the shadow walker holding him. The creature burst into black flames and fell away. Doran's arm was still numb, but he picked up his sword with his other hand. "Thank you," he said to Lyra. She nodded, then turned to face the largest group of shadow walkers. Lyra took a deep breath and clapped her hands together. A wave of purple energy burst outward like a ring. When it touched the shadow walkers, they shook violently and fell apart into dust. For a moment, the attack stopped. The guards caught their breath. Doran's arm began to feel warm again as the numbness wore off. "Is it over?" asked Leon, who had a cut on his face. "No," said Lyra, looking into the forest. "There are more coming." A cold wind blew through the trees. The clouds moved away from the moon, showing a large group of shadow walkers moving toward them. There were too many to count. "We can't fight them all," said Doran. "We need to run." "There's nowhere to run," said Lyra. "They will follow our scent." "Then what do we do?" asked Jared, his voice sharp with fear. Lyra closed her eyes. The purple glow around her hands grew brighter, spreading up her arms to her shoulders. "Stand close to me," she said. "All of you." The guards looked at Doran. He nodded, and they moved in close around Lyra. "What are you going to do?" Doran asked her. "Something difficult," said Lyra. Her voice sounded strained. "It will drain my power for a while." The shadow walkers were getting closer, 50 or more, all coming for them with their strange, stiff walk. Lyra raised her arms above her head. The purple light shot up into the sky, then spread out like a roof over them. It began to move downward, forming a dome of light around the group. The shadow walkers reached the dome. They pushed against it, their gray hands pressing on the purple light, but they could not break through. Inside the dome, Lyra was shaking with effort. Sweat ran down her face. I can hold this until dawn, she said. The shadow walkers cannot stand in sunlight. Doran looked at her with new respect. You're protecting us all. Yes, she said. Her voice was weak now. But I will need your help when this is over. I will be very tired. The shadow walkers continued to press against the dome. Their black eyes stared at the humans inside. They hit the light with their dark blades, but could not break it. Through the long night, Lyra held the dome of purple light. The guards took turns watching the shadow walkers and resting. Doran stayed near Lyra, ready to catch her if she fell. As the first light of dawn touched the trees, the shadow walkers began to back away. When the sun's rays hit them directly, they made a horrible hissing sound and melted into the ground like dark water. When the last one was gone, Lyra lowered her arms. The purple dome disappeared. She swayed on her feet, then started to fall. Doran caught her. For the first time, she felt small and light in his arms, not like the powerful witch who had walked past his guards at the palace gate. You saved us, he said quietly. Lyra opened her eyes. They still glowed faintly purple, but the light was dim. And you caught me, she whispered. Perhaps we are even now, Captain. The morning sun shone through the trees. Lyra lay on a bed of cloaks. She was very pale, and her breathing was shallow. Leon, the guard who knew healing, checked her forehead. She has no fever, but her body is cold, he said. It's like all her strength is gone. Will she recover? Asked Doran. He tried to keep his voice calm, but the others could hear his worry. I think so, said Leon, but she needs rest. And food. Thomas brought water from a nearby stream. Bram found some wild berries that were safe to eat. Finn and Jared kept watch, in case more shadow walkers found a way to attack during daylight. We can't stay here, said Doran. More will come when night falls. But we can't move her yet, argued Leon. She's too weak. Doran looked at the sun. We have maybe 8 hours before sunset. We need to find better shelter. Jared, the tracker, nodded. I'll scout ahead. There are hills to the north. Might be caves we can defend better than open forest. While Jared was gone, Doran sat next to Lyra. Her eyes were closed, but she was not asleep. The purple glow was completely gone from her skin. You need to eat something, he said, offering her berries. Lyra opened her eyes slowly. The magic takes a lot from me, she whispered. I've never seen power like that, said Doran. Not even from the king's wizards. Lyra took a small berry. Moros. His power is greater. When he trained me, he never showed his full strength. She ate the berry and seemed to gain a little color in her face. That's why we need the stone. Without it, we have no chance. Jared returned an hour later. Found a good spot, he reported. Old hunter's cabin near a cliff face. Stone walls, one door. Easy to defend. Doran nodded. Good work. Bram, you'll carry Lyra. Let's move out. They gathered their things quickly. Bram, the strongest guard, lifted Lyra as gently as he could. She was light in his big arms. Thank you, she said softly. Bram looked embarrassed. You saved us all last night. This is nothing. They moved through the forest with care. Every shadow made them nervous now, even in daylight. The attack had changed things. The guards no longer watched Lyra like she might hurt them. Now they protected her like one of their own. The cabin was small but sturdy. It sat at the base of a tall cliff. The walls were made of stone and logs. There was one door and 2 windows with wooden shutters. Inside was a fireplace, a table, and some old furs for sleeping. Hunters used this in winter, explained Jared. No one will be here now. They made Lyra comfortable on the furs. Leon checked her again and smiled. She's warming up. That's good. Doran organized the men. Finn, Thomas, check our supplies. Bram, get firewood, but stay close. Jared, Leon, help me set up defenses around the cabin. By late afternoon, they had done all they could. Branches with sharp points stuck out of the ground around the cabin. The windows were blocked with furniture. They had only one way in or out, the front door, which they could bar from inside. Lyra sat up and ate a proper meal of dried meat and bread from their packs. Some of her strength had returned, but she was still pale. "The Shadow Walkers will return tonight," she said, "but they're not the worst thing Moros can send." The guards looked at each other nervously. "What's worse than those things?" asked Thomas. "Soul hunters," said Lyra. Her voice was quiet but clear. "They don't just want your body. They want your spirit. Can you fight them?" asked Doran. "With your magic?" Lyra shook her head. "Not tonight. Maybe tomorrow if I rest well. But my power needs time to return." Doran made a decision. "Then we fight without magic. We are the Royal Guards. We've faced enemies before." "Not like these," said Lyra. "It doesn't matter," said Doran firmly. "We have our duty. To the king, to the kingdom, and to you now." Lyra looked surprised. "To me. You protected us," said Doran. "Now we protect you." That's how it works with the Royal Guards. For the first time since they had met her, Lyra smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. "Thank you, Captain." As the sun began to set, they took their positions. Bram and Jared by the door with their swords, Finn at one window with his bow, Thomas and Leon at the other window, ready with spears they had made from branches. Doran stayed near Lyra, who sat by the fire, trying to gather her strength. Darkness fell over the forest. They waited, listening. At first, there was nothing. Just the normal sounds of night. Wind in the trees, an owl calling. Then the sounds stopped. The forest went completely silent. "They're coming," whispered Lyra. A low mist began to form outside. It crawled along the ground like a living thing, surrounding the cabin. In the mist, shapes moved. Tall, thin shapes that were not shadow walkers. "Soul hunters," said Lyra. The mist rose higher, pressing against the walls of the cabin. It seeped through small cracks between logs. The temperature in the cabin dropped. They could see their breath in the air. Something scratched at the door. Not like an animal. More like fingers with long nails, dragging slowly down the wood. A voice spoke from the mist. It was not one voice, but many, all speaking together. It was the most terrible sound Doran had ever heard. "Lyra," called the voice, "come home to your master." "Do not listen to them," said Lyra, her voice shaking. "They speak with Moros's voice." The mist pressed harder against the cabin. It came through every small crack in the walls. It formed shapes in the air, hands reaching, faces screaming. "The door is freezing," said Bram, jumping back. The wood of the door was turning white with frost. The metal handle cracked from the cold. "Stand ready," ordered Doran. He stood in front of Lyra with his sword drawn. The blade shook slightly in his hand, but his face was set and brave. The voice spoke again from the mist. "Send her out, and the rest of you may live. Keep her, and your souls will join our hunt." "What does that mean?" whispered Thomas. His young face was white with fear. "It means they'll kill us and turn us into soul hunters too," said Lyra. She tried to stand but was still too weak. "I should go out. I'm the one they want." "No," said Doran firmly. "No one goes out. We stay together." The frost spread from the door to the walls. The temperature dropped even more. Their breath came out in white clouds. Finn's bow creaked from the cold. Then the attack began. The door burst inward in a shower of ice. Where it had stood was a tall, thin shape. It looked like a person made of gray mist. It had no real face, just hollows where eyes should be and a dark line for a mouth. Long arms ended in fingers like icicles. Bram and Jared attacked it at once. Their swords passed right through the misty body. The soul hunter did not even seem to notice them. It reached for Bram with its long fingers. "Don't let it touch you," shouted Lyra. Bram jumped back just in time. The soul hunter's fingers brushed his sleeve, and the cloth turned to ice and shattered. More soul hunters flowed in through the windows. The wooden shutters could not keep them out. They moved like flowing water, reforming into their tall shapes inside the cabin. Finn shot arrows through them. The arrows passed through without harm. Thomas and Leon jabbed with their spears, but it was like fighting smoke. "Fire," said Lyra suddenly. "They fear fire." Doran grabbed a burning stick from the fireplace. He swung it at the nearest soul hunter. The creature hissed and backed away from the flames. "Quick, everyone take a brand from the fire," ordered Doran. The guards dropped their useless weapons and grabbed burning sticks. The soul hunters retreated from the flames, but did not leave. They gathered in corners of the cabin, waiting. "We can't hold them off forever," said Jared. "The wood will burn down, and then what?" Lyra closed her eyes. Her hands began to glow faintly purple again. "I'm trying to gather my strength, but it's too soon." Outside, a new sound rose above the whispers of the soul hunters. Heavy footsteps, coming closer. Something big was approaching the cabin. A dark shape filled the broken doorway, larger than a man, with broad shoulders and a head that nearly touched the top of the frame. It wore black armor that seemed to swallow the light. Its face was hidden behind a metal mask with no eye holes. "Death Knight," whispered Lyra. Real fear filled her voice. The Death Knight stepped into the cabin. The floor creaked under its weight. In one hand it held a sword as black as night. In the other, a chain with a hook on the end. "Moros sends his greetings, little student," it said in a voice like stones grinding together. "He misses your company." Doran stepped forward, holding his burning brand. "You will not take her." The Death Knight looked at him. Though it had no eyes behind its mask, Doran could feel its gaze. It raised its black sword. "Brave little man," it said. "Your courage means nothing here." It swung the sword. Doran blocked with his burning brand. The wood should have been cut in half by the heavy blade, but instead, the flames flared up. The Death Knight stepped back, hissing. "So, you found his weakness," said the Death Knight to Lyra. "Clever girl. But fire alone will not save you." It swung the chain instead. The hook caught Doran's arm. With a yank, it pulled him forward and off his feet. He fell hard on the floor, losing his burning brand. The Death Knight raised its sword to strike him down. Lyra screamed. A burst of purple light shot from her hands and hit the Death Knight in the chest. It staggered back, but did not fall. "Still some fight in you," it said. "Good. Moros will enjoy breaking you again." Thomas ran forward with his burning brand, swinging at the Death Knight. It caught his arm and threw him against the wall. Finn and Jared attacked from both sides. The Death Knight fought them off, its black sword moving faster than seemed possible for something so large. Leon helped Doran to his feet. They grabbed their burning brands again and joined the fight. 5 men against 1 Death Knight, but it was still winning. In the corner, Lyra closed her eyes. She gathered all her remaining strength. The purple glow spread up her arms to her shoulders, then to her whole body. She began to float a few inches off the ground. "Get back," she shouted to the guards. "All of you, get back." The guards looked at her and saw what was happening. They scrambled away from the Death Knight, pressing themselves against the walls. The Death Knight turned to Lyra. "Too late, little student. Your power is not." Lyra thrust both hands forward. A beam of purple light, brighter than anything they had seen before, shot from her palms. It hit the Death Knight square in the chest. The black armor cracked. Light poured from the cracks. The Death Knight dropped its sword. It tried to step forward, but could not move. The purple light spread through its whole body, shining from every joint in the armor. "Moros will come himself," it said. Then it exploded in a flash of purple light. The force of the explosion knocked everyone down. When they looked up, the Death Knight was gone. Just a pile of empty black armor on the floor. The soul hunters had vanished too, driven away by the burst of power. Lyra fell to the ground, completely drained. Doran rushed to her side. She was breathing, but barely. Her skin was ice cold. "Is she?" asked Thomas. "She's alive," said Doran, "but she used everything she had." "Will she recover?" asked Bram. Doran looked down at Lyra's pale face. "She has to," he said quietly. "We need her, and I think she needs us too." He picked her up gently. "We move now, while the path is clear. The morning is not far off. We'll find a safe place and let her rest." "But the mission," began Jared. "The mission continues," said Doran firmly. "But first, we make sure Lyra survives. Without her, we have no chance against Moros." They gathered their things quickly. Outside, the forest was quiet again. The mist was gone. They could see stars between the tree branches. As they walked, Doran carried Lyra carefully in his arms. Her head rested against his shoulder. Once, she opened her eyes briefly. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not giving up on me." "Never," said Doran. "That's not what royal guards do." A small smile touched her lips before she fell unconscious again. Doran held her closer, determined to keep her safe. Not just for the mission now, but for herself. Behind them, in the empty cabin, the pile of black armor began to move slightly. A faint red glow appeared inside the helmet. A whisper came from it, too quiet for anyone to hear. "She grows stronger." Perfect. The sun rose over the mountains. The guards had walked all night, taking turns carrying Lyra. Now Doran held her again as they climbed a steep path. She had not woken since the battle with the Death Knight. "There," said Jared, pointing ahead. "An old temple. It should be safe." The temple was small and made of stone. It sat on a hill, half hidden by trees. The walls were covered with vines, but they looked strong. A stone statue of a woman with her hands raised stood by the door. "The Temple of Light," said Leon. "My grandmother told stories about this place. Holy men and women used to live here. They had healing magic." "Will it help Lyra?" asked Doran. Leon shrugged. "Maybe. The old magic might still be in the stones." They entered the temple carefully. Inside was one large room with a high ceiling. Sunlight came through holes in the roof. The floor was stone, but someone had left clean blankets in one corner. "Someone still takes care of this place," said Finn, looking around. "Good," said Doran. "We'll rest here today." They made a bed for Lyra with the blankets. Leon checked her again. "Her breathing is better," he said, "but she's still very cold." Doran sat beside her while the others explored the temple. Thomas found a small spring at the back where clean water bubbled up from the ground. Bram discovered fruits growing in a garden behind the temple. They had food and water and shelter. "Captain," said Jared, coming to sit near Doran, "we should talk about what happens next." "We wait for Lyra to recover," said Doran. "Then we continue to Moro's castle." "And if she doesn't recover?" asked Jared. His voice was low so the others couldn't hear. "We've lost days already. The king is waiting for news." Doran looked at Lyra's pale face. "She will recover." "You care for her," said Jared. It wasn't a question. Doran didn't answer right away. Finally, he nodded. "I didn't expect to. When she first came to the palace, I thought she was the enemy. And now I know the real enemy. And I know we need her to face him." Jared put his hand on Doran's shoulder. "We'll give her 2 more days. Then we need to decide." As the day passed, the guards took turns keeping watch. No one really believed they were safe, even in this peaceful place. Moros had found them twice already. He would find them again. In the afternoon, a soft voice spoke from the temple door. "Welcome, travelers." The guards jumped to their feet, weapons ready. In the doorway stood an old woman in a simple white dress. She carried a basket of herbs and had a kind face with many wrinkles. "Who are you?" demanded Doran. "I am Ilara," said the old woman. I take care of this temple." She looked at Lyra on the blankets. "Ah, I see why you came. Your friend needs help. Can you help her?" asked Doran, lowering his sword. Ilara walked to Lyra and put a hand on her forehead. "Magic exhaustion," she said. She used too much power at once. She looked up at Doran. "What were you fighting?" "A death knight," said Doran. "Sent by Lord Moros." Ilara's face went pale. "Moros. He has returned." She shook her head sadly. "I feared this day would come." "You know of him?" asked Doran. "All who study magic know of Moros," said Ilara. She opened her basket and took out various herbs. "He was once a great teacher of magic, but power corrupted him. He began to study dark spells, forbidden things." "That's what Lyra told us," said Thomas. "Lyra." Ilara looked at the unconscious woman with new interest. "This is Lyra." She checked Lyra's arms and found the burn mark in the shape of a handprint. Moro's mark. So she was his student, one who escaped. "Can you help her?" Doran asked again, more urgently. "Yes," said Ilara, "but it will take time, and she must want to recover." "What do you mean?" asked Doran. "Magic exhaustion affects the spirit as well as the body," explained Ilara. "Sometimes, a magic user who has failed or been hurt will choose to stay in the darkness. It feels safer there." "But we need her," said Doran. "The kingdom needs her." Ilara looked at him carefully. "Does she know that? Does she know she is needed? That she is valued?" Doran thought about how they had treated Lyra at first, with suspicion and fear. Only in the last few days had they started to trust her, to see her as one of them. "I don't know," he admitted. "Then someone must tell her," said Ilara. "Someone she trusts." "How?" asked Doran. "She can't hear us." "She can," said Ilara. "Part of her is still aware, even now." She stood up. "I will make a special tea from these herbs. It will help her body heal. But her spirit needs a different kind of medicine." While Ilara worked, Doran sat close to Lyra. He felt awkward, not knowing what to say. The others gave him space, staying at the other end of the temple. "Lyra," he said finally, his voice low. "I don't know if you can hear me, but we need you to come back." He paused. "I need you to come back." He told her about his life before he met her, how he had always followed orders without question, how meeting her had changed things, made him see the world differently. "You showed me that sometimes the rules aren't enough," he said. "Sometimes you have to trust your heart too." Ilara returned with a cup of tea. It smelled sweet and strange. She helped Doran lift Lyra's head, and together they got her to drink a little. "Now we wait," said Ilara. "Talk to her, remind her why she should return." Through the evening and into the night, Doran stayed by Lyra's side. He told her stories of his childhood, of becoming a guard, of his hopes for the future. The other guards took turns too, each sharing something with her. Even Jared, who had been the most suspicious, told her how brave he thought she was. As midnight approached, Ilara checked on Lyra again. "Her body is warming," she said. "A good sign." Doran, tired from the long day, rested his head near Lyra's blankets. He didn't mean to fall asleep, but exhaustion took him. In his dreams, he stood in a purple mist. He couldn't see far in any direction. "Hello," he called. His voice echoed strangely. "Doran." Lyra's voice answered. He turned and saw her, standing in the mist. She looked lost and afraid. "Lyra, where are we?" "In the between place," she said. "Not alive, not dead. I've been here before." "You need to come back," said Doran, reaching for her hand. "Why?" she asked. "I failed. The Death Knight almost killed you all because of me." "No, you saved us," said Doran. "You've saved us many times. But I'm not strong enough to face Moros," she said, looking down. "I never was." "Not alone," said Doran. "But you're not alone anymore." He squeezed her hand. She looked up, surprised. "Come back with me," he said. "Please." The mist began to fade. Doran woke with a start. It was morning. Sunlight filled the temple. Next to him, Lyra opened her eyes. They were clear and bright, with just a hint of purple. "You came for me," she said softly. Doran smiled. Always. 3 days passed at the temple. Lyra grew stronger each day. The color returned to her face. The purple glow in her eyes became bright again. Ilara taught her new ways to use her magic, ways that would not drain her so quickly. "You are special," Ilara told Lyra. "Moros saw that in you. It's why he chose you as his student. And why he wants me back," said Lyra. "Yes, your power grows beyond what even he expected." On the 4th day, Lyra was finally strong enough to continue their journey. Ilara gave them food, water, and a small bag of special herbs. "For strength," she said, "when you need it most." Before they left, Ilara took Doran aside. "Moros's castle lies beyond the Black Lake," she said. "No one has returned from there in many years." "We will return," said Doran. Ilara smiled sadly. "I believe you will try. But be careful. Moros does not just want to kill Lyra. He wants to turn her, to make her like him." "That will never happen," said Doran firmly. "Love is a powerful shield," said Ilara, looking at him closely. "Remember that." They said goodbye to Ilara and continued north. The land grew darker and colder. Fewer trees, more rocks. The sky seemed always gray. "We're getting close," said Lyra. "I can feel it." On the 2nd day after leaving the temple, they reached the Black Lake. It was huge, and the water was dark as night. Nothing grew around its shores. No birds flew over it. "Moros's castle is on the other side," said Lyra, pointing to a dark shape on the far shore. Even from this distance, they could see it was huge and made of black stone. "How do we cross?" asked Thomas. "There are no boats." Lyra looked at Doran. "I can get us across, but you won't like it." "What do you mean?" he asked. "Shadow walking," she said. "I learned it from Moros. It's how the shadow walkers move. I can make us like shadows, just for a short time. We can cross the lake without touching the water." The guards looked nervous. Bram spoke first. "Will it hurt?" "No," said Lyra, "but it will feel strange. Cold, like you're not fully real." Doran nodded. "If it's the only way, we do it." Lyra held out her hands. "Everyone hold hands. Make a circle." They joined hands. Lyra began to speak words none of them understood. The purple light spread from her body to theirs. Doran felt a strange feeling, like his body was turning to mist. "Don't let go, no matter what," warned Lyra. The world around them changed. Colors faded to gray. Sounds became distant. They could see through their own hands, like they were made of smoke. "Now we walk," said Lyra. "Stay together." They walked onto the Black Lake. Their feet didn't sink into the water. It felt solid, like walking on glass. Strange shapes moved in the water below them, things with many eyes and long teeth. But they couldn't touch the shadow forms walking above. It took an hour to cross the lake. When they reached the other side, Lyra spoke more strange words. The shadow feeling faded. Their bodies became solid again. Colors returned to the world. "That was different," said Finn, looking at his hands to make sure they were real again. They stood at the base of a tall cliff. The black castle sat on top, its towers reaching into the gray clouds. There was only one way up, a narrow path cut into the rock. "He'll know we're here," said Lyra. "The lake is his first defense. Nothing crosses without him knowing." "Then we don't try to hide," said Doran. "We go straight in." They climbed the path single file. It was steep and dangerous. One wrong step meant falling to the rocks below. After a hard climb, they'd reached the castle gate. It stood open, waiting for them. "It's a trap," said Jared. "Of course it is," said Lyra. "Moros wants us to enter." "Then we give him what he wants," said Doran. But we stay together. No one fights alone. They entered the castle with weapons ready. Inside was a large hall with black stone walls. Torches with strange blue flames lit the way. The hall led to a single door at the far end. "The throne room," said Lyra. "He'll be waiting there." The door to the throne room opened on its own as they approached. Inside was a circular room with a high ceiling. Windows looked out over the black lake. A throne made of dark metal sat on a raised platform. And on the throne was Moros. He was tall and thin, with a face that might once have been handsome, but now looked wrong somehow. His skin was too pale, his eyes too dark. He wore black robes with strange symbols sewn in silver thread. Around his neck hung a stone on a chain, a deep red stone that glowed with inner light. "My dear Lyra," he said, his voice smooth and cold. "How kind of you to bring me new subjects." Lyra stepped forward. The guards moved with her, keeping her protected on all sides. "I didn't come to return to you, Moros," she said. "I came to stop you." He stood up from his throne. The air around him seemed to bend. The red stone at his neck pulsed like a heartbeat. "I've grown stronger," said Lyra. The purple light began to glow around her hands. "Yes, you have," agreed Moros. "Exactly as I planned." Doran looked at Lyra with concern. "What does he mean?" Moros laughed. "Did you think it was accident that my death knight fell so easily? That my soul hunters let you escape?" He pointed at Lyra. "Every time she used her power against my creatures, she grew stronger. And her power comes from me." "That's not true," said Lyra, but her voice shook. "The mark I left on you," said Moros, pointing to the handprint burn on her arm. "It's not just a burn. It's a connection. Through it, your power flows back to me." Lyra looked at her arm in horror. "No. Every creature you defeated, every spell you cast, made you stronger. And through you, made me stronger." Moros held up his hand. A purple light, just like Lyra's, glowed around it. "And now I have enough to complete my work." He raised both hands. The castle began to shake. Outside, the gray clouds turned black. Lightning flashed with no thunder. "What are you doing?" demanded Lyra. "Reshaping the world," said Moros, "starting with this kingdom." Doran drew his sword and stepped forward. "Not while we stand." Moros looked at him with amusement. "Brave little captain. Do you really think that blade can hurt me?" "Maybe not," said Doran. "But this might." He pulled out the bag of herbs Elara had given them. "She said to use it when we needed it most." "Elara." Moros's face showed surprise for the first time. "That old fool still lives." Doran threw the herbs into the nearest blue torch. They burst into green flames. A sweet smell filled the room. The red stone around Moros's neck dimmed. "No," shouted Moros. "What have you done?" "Broken your connection," said Lyra, understanding now. The purple light around her hands grew brighter. Elara knew. The herbs block magic bonds. Moros grabbed the stone at his neck. "It doesn't matter. I have enough power already." He shot a beam of dark energy at them. Lyra raised her hands and blocked it with a shield of purple light. The guards spread out, moving around the edges of the room toward Moros. "The stone," Lyra told them. "Get the stone." Moros fought with all his power. Dark energy flew around the room. The guards dodged and rolled, getting closer to him. Lyra kept his attention on her, blocking his strongest attacks. Finally, Thomas saw his chance. He leaped from behind a column and grabbed the chain around Moros's neck. It broke in his hand. The red stone fell to the floor. "No!" screamed Moros. Doran brought his sword down on the stone. It cracked, then shattered. Red light burst out, then faded away. Moros fell to his knees. He suddenly looked old and weak. The dark energy around him disappeared. "It's over, Master," said Lyra, standing over him. "It will never be over," whispered Moros. "The darkness is always waiting." His body began to age before their eyes. like time was catching up to him all at once. In moments, he was nothing but dust on the floor of his castle. The castle started to crumble. Stones fell from the ceiling. The blue torches went out. "We need to leave," said Doran. "Now." They ran from the throne room, through the hall, and out the gate. The path down the cliff was already breaking apart. They half ran, half slid down to the shore of the Black Lake. "How do we cross?" asked Bram, looking at the dark water. Lyra raised her hands. The purple light was brighter than ever. "I have enough power for one more shadow walk." They joined hands. The shadow feeling came over them again. They crossed the lake quickly, watching the black castle fall into the water behind them. On the far shore, they became solid again. Lyra dropped to her knees, tired but not drained like before. "Is it really over?" asked Pomus. "Yes," said Lyra. The stone was his source of power. Without it, he couldn't hold back time. He was hundreds of years old. Doran helped Lyra to her feet. "What will you do now?" "I don't know," she said. "I spent so long running from him, fighting him. I never thought about after." "Come back with us," said Doran. "The king would welcome you. The kingdom needs people with your gifts." "And what about you?" asked Lyra. "What do you need, Captain?" Doran smiled. "I think you know the answer to that." As they began the long journey home, the sky cleared. The sun shone for the first time in days. Birds sang in the trees. The world felt right again. The royal guards walked proudly, with Lyra among them. No longer the enemies they had once been. Now they were something else. A team. A family. And perhaps for two of them, something more. At the palace gate where it had all began, the guards stood at attention as Doran and his team returned. The king waited on the steps, his face breaking into a smile when he saw them. "You succeeded," he said. "Yes, your majesty," said Doran. "Thanks to Lyra." The king looked at Lyra with respect. "It seems I have much to thank you for, and perhaps an apology to make, for how you were first received." Lyra bowed. "No apology needed, your majesty. In your place, I would have been careful too." "What will you do now?" asked the king. Before Lyra could answer, Doran stepped forward. "With your permission, your majesty, I would like Lyra to join the royal guards." The guards behind him nodded in agreement. "Is this what you want?" the king asked Lyra. She looked at Doran, then at the others. Men who had once feared her now stood beside her. "Yes," she said. "I think I've found where I belong." The king nodded. "Then it shall be. Lyra of the royal guards." He smiled. "I think our enemies will think twice before challenging us now." As the sun set over the kingdom, peace settled like a warm blanket. The threat was gone. Moros was no more. And the royal guards had a new member whose unknown power had once outclassed them, but now protected them all. Doran stood on the palace wall, watching the stars come out. Lyra joined him, her purple eyes reflecting the starlight. "No regrets?" he asked. "None," she said, taking his hand. "This is where I was always meant to be." And in that moment, both knew it was true.